Did you know that 87% of leaders are failing at communications right now? It's true, and it's costing business billions. Here's the real shocker. You might be part of that 87% without even realizing it. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why so many leaders struggle to connect with their teams. And the more importantly, I will reveal the secret of the top 13% who have mastered the art at the workplace in terms of communications. So are you ready to join their ranks? Now picture this. You're working on a crucial project. You think you have given a very clear instruction to your team. But when the deadline rolls around, half of the work is missing. And what's there doesn't match your vision. It sounds familiar, right? This scenario plays out in offices everywhere, every single day. Here's a shocking stats for you. 50% of projects fail due to breakdowns in communications. That's more than half of all projects. It's like trying to build a house when your carpenter thinks you said brick, but you actually said stick. The result, a mess, wasted resource, and lots of finger pointing. Why does this happen? Why do so many leaders, despite their best intentions, struggle to get their message across? The answer might surprise you. The first big reason why 87% of leaders fail at communication is what I call clarity assumption. Too many leaders assume their instructions are very clear, simple, because they make sense in their own heads. They forget that the team member doesn't have access to all the content and information that they do. Think about it. How often you have thought, I shouldn't need to explain this, it's obvious. But here's the truth. What's obvious to you isn't always obvious to others. Top performing leaders understand this. They take time to provide context, explain why behind the decisions, and check for understanding. This clarity assumption is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to communication challenge in the workplace. It's a silent productivity killer that's costing business billions and leaving teams frustrated and disengaged. Now, imagine a world where your boss always knows exactly what you need, sometimes before you even realize it yourself. Sounds like a fantasy, right? Well, for a selected few leaders, this isn't just imagination, it's reality. So what set these communication wizards apart? The answer lies in a concept called emotional intelligence, and it's revolutionizing the way we think about leadership communications. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions as well as the emotions of others. It's a secret sauce that turns good leaders into great communicators. But here's the kicker. While most leaders believe they are empathetic and in tune with their team's need, the reality paints a different picture altogether. A shocking study by Gallup found that 13% of the employees strongly agree that their leaders communicate effectively. That's a massive disconnect between perception and reality. So why does this empathy gap exist? Often leaders get so caught up in their own goals and pressure that they forget to consider the human element of their team. They might think that you are being clear and supportive, but their action tells a different story. This lack of empathy has serious consequences. When employees feel misunderstood or undervalued, they become disengaged. Disengaged employees are most likely to underperform. Call in sick or even quit. In fact, companies with low employee engagements experience 18% lower productivity and 15% lower profitability. But here's the good news. Leaders who breach this empathy gap see incredible results. Research shows that the team led by emotional, intelligent leaders reported higher level of trust, cooperation, and overall performance. These leaders create a supportive environment where employees feel heard and valued, leading to a 55% increase in engagement. So how do the top 13% of the leaders excel in these areas? So they prioritize active listening, seek to understand before being understood, and aren't afraid to show vulnerability. They create open channels of communications and regularly check in with their team members on both professional and personal levels. But even empathetic leaders can stumble when it comes to one critical aspect of communications. Have you ever given feedback that seemed to backfire spectacularly? There's a psychological reason why your well-meaning advice might be met with resistance, and understanding it could revolutionize your leadership approach. Let's talk about feedback, the lifeblood of growth and improvement in any workplace. We all know it's important, right? But here's the kicker. Most of us are doing it wrong. And I mean, it's really wrong. Think about the last time you gave someone a constructive criticism. How did they react? If you are like most leaders, you probably notice them getting defensive, maybe even a little upset. You might have chalked it up to them being sensitive or resistant to change. But what if I told you the problem isn't them? The problem is you. Here's the harsh truth. Your well-intentioned feedback might be destroying your team's motivation and performance. Shocking, right? But there's a solid science behind this. Our brains are wired to perceive criticism as a threat. When we hear negative feedback, our fight or flight responses kicks in, making it nearly impossible to process the information constructively. So what's the solution? How do top leaders navigate this minefield? They understand that effective feedback is a two-way street. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, they ask questions. What do you think went well? What would you do differently next time? This approach engages the other person in a self-reflection, making them more receptive to suggestions. But it doesn't stop here. The most effective leaders have mastered the art of feedback sandwich. No, I'm not talking about any food habit here. It's a technique where you start with the preparations, address areas of improvement, and end on a positive note. This method helps soften the blow of criticism and keeps the recipient open to growth. Remember, timing is everything. Delivering feedback in the heat of the moment is a recipe for disaster. Top leaders wait for a calm, private setting where both parties can engage in a constructive dialogue. They make it a regular thing, not just an annual performance review ambush. Here's where many leaders go wrong. They rely too heavily on email or written feedback. While it might seem efficient, but it often leads to misunderstanding. The best communicators know that The tone and body language are very, very crucial in feedback conversation. They opt for face-to-face interaction whenever possible. So while face-to-face interactions are invaluable, they are always not feasible. Here's a shocking stats again. 50% of time spent in meeting is considered unproductive. So how do top leaders ensure that their message gets across effectively? Every single time, regardless of the medium. The answer lies in a communication strategy that most people overlook, and it's costing them dearly. Enter the ecosystem, which the communication ecosystem. A comprehensive approach that goes beyond just choosing the right word. It's about creating a network of channels that work together seamlessly to keep information flowing smooth across the organization. Think of it as your communication switch army knife, with each tool serving a unique purpose. So are you still relying solely on email to resolve complex problems? Big mistake. Email is great for certain things like sharing documents or setting up meetings. But for discussions or brainstorming sessions, not so much. That's where tools like Microsoft Teams comes in handy, allowing for quick informal exchange that can spark creativity and collaborations. But here's the kicker. It's not just having multiple channels. It's about knowing when and how to use each one of them effectively. The top 13% of the leaders understand this seriously. They don't just fire off an email and call it a day. Instead, they carefully consider the nature of the message, the audience, and the desired outcome before choosing their communication method. For example, they might use video calls for Teams check-ins to maintain that personal connection, especially with remote workers. For project updates, they might opt for a shared digital workplace where everyone can see the progress in real time. And for those sensitive conversations, they know nothing beats good old-fashioned face-to-face chat. This multiple channel approach isn't just about convenience, it's about effectiveness. Research shows that organizations using a variety of communication channels see improved collaborations, reduced misunderstanding, and higher employee satisfaction. It's like giving your team a communication superpower, allowing them to adapt to any situation. But here's where the 87% of leaders fall short, as they fail to create a cohesive communication ecosystem. They might have the right tools, but they use them haphazardly, leading to information silos and confused employees. The result, a communication breakdown that can derail even the most promising projects. So what's the secret sauce of the top 13%? They create guidelines for when and how to use each communication channels. They train their teams on their best practices. And most importantly, they lead by example, consistently using the right tool for the right job. So there you have it. Effective communication isn't some mystical talent reserved for a chosen one. It's a skill you can learn, practice, and master. And when you do, it will transform not just your leadership, but your entire career. So take a moment to reflect on your communication habits. Are you falling into any traps that we have discussed? Maybe you are making assumptions about clarity, or struggling with empathy, or given feedback that falls flat. Whatever it is, commit to improve just one aspect of your communication this week. Remember, great communication has the power to inspire, motivate, and drive real change. It's the difference between a team that merely functions and the one that truly thrives. So, are you ready to join the top 13% of the leaders who excel at communication? Your journey starts now. If you like this video, please subscribe and share. And I'll see you soon in my next video. Till then, take care.